All right, you just learned a little bit about net worth and how it's calculated, assets minus liabilities. And so now I'm going to kind of give you some things to kind of think about as you enter your young adult life about what you just learned. So a couple things that kind of happen is with young adults is as they graduate college, they get into their 20s, and they start acquiring assets that depreciate, and they do not focus on investing in assets that appreciate. So so as business majors, we take a lot of different classes on understanding how this works. And so you'll see a lot of business majors when they graduate college, they start acquiring assets that appreciate versus loading up their balance sheet with assets that depreciate. Now, obviously, we need clothes, we need furniture, we need electronics, transportation, stuff like that. It's how we allocate our income as we start making money. So, what a lot of Americans will do is that they receive a paycheck, they start spending their money, and they build their budget around that paycheck. And what they do is they save last, they save and invest last. And so as they spend their money, they're acquiring assets that depreciate. And a lot of times when they acquire those assets that depreciate, they're taking out loans, and so they're borrowing money to do that. And when you borrow money, you have to pay interest. Now, I'm not saying not never to borrow money, but what I am saying is you just got to think about what you're actually doing and understand how the system works. So, what we'll cover a little bit in this unit is just understanding how money works, and really the best way to acquire assets that appreciate is to make that the first bill of the month for the rest of your life. So every time you get paid, you acquire a little bit of assets that are going to appreciate in the long term. And examples would be stocks, equities, real estate. You could own real estate both direct. If you don't want to own real estate directly and hold the real estate, you could invest indirectly in real estate. You can invest in commodities, gold, metals, different types of natural resources. You can invest in more riskier things like cryptocurrency and collectibles. Uh, those collectibles, you could have a big payoff, or you could lose everything because you can't find someone to buy the collectible from you. So, as an investor, you get to decide what your risk tolerance is. And really, the top investment you can make is your own business because you could use someone else's money to start a business and sell it for tens of millions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars, $1 million. Um, you obviously have to put the time in, but if you know what you're doing and you study it, you could use other people's money to kind of get your business going if you could sell them the concept. Depreciating assets, automobiles depreciate. So a lot of young people go out and they buy a new car right away. That's probably one of the biggest mistakes they can make as a 21-year-old is because they're putting a brand new car on their balance sheet. Let's say 35,000, and within a couple of years, that car has depreciated. It hasn't gone up in value. On top of it, you're paying interest on the loan for the car. And so the argument goes, well, Mr. Novickus, I want to have a nice car, and that's fine. Then go with the new car, but then you can't have the nicest apartment in the city and in the brand new clothes and the new furniture and new electronics. You're going to have to make some decisions. Okay, you're going to have to not spend that entire paycheck. So if you save first, you will build wealth for your entire life, and if you're consistent with that, you really don't have to save as much as you think to build wealth if you start early. And I'm going to show you that here in a second. So this lesson, to be honest, when you're 6 years old, you can't complain to people and say no one ever taught me this, because here you are as a young teenager in consumer ec online, and somebody's giving you this lesson. It's your job to think about this and to maybe do something about it at some point in the next few years. The big thing, sorry, that skipped out there. The big thing you just have to realize is that you have to have a game plan. And when it comes to college, I'm not saying don't borrow money for college, but you have to look at if you're getting a subsidized or unsubsidized loan. A subsidized loan, it doesn't accrue interest until you leave school. An unsubsidized loan will start accruing interest as soon as you borrow the money. So my advice is stay away from unsubsidized loans. You might be putting yourself in a deep hole, because as you start borrowing that money freshman year, it's going to accrue interest over the next few years. And my advice is, if you're going down that path, you want to maybe look at alternative schools that not as expensive, community college maybe for a year or two, and really think about, what you're doing. Most students do not graduate college in 4 years. So if they get a unsubsidized loan their freshman year, they might not graduate college for 5-6 years. So that the interest keeps accruing on that loan, and on top of it, they keep adding more debt to it. And so a lot of the reasons why we're in this financial loan bubble is that people are borrowing the money without really understanding how the debt instrument works. And so you want to be knowledgeable of what you're getting yourself into. But if you're smart with college and you get out with little debt, not as much debt, that'll allow you to then start earning money and then start investing in assets that appreciate. If you borrow way too much money in college debt, your focus will be away from this, and it'll go towards paying off huge debt amounts. I'm not saying don't borrow money from college. I'm not saying that. I'm saying you got to be smart about how you borrow, and make sure that you explore all your options before, and understanding how the debt instrument works before you sign on a dotted line. Then a lot of young 20-year-olds, so they have big college debt, they go out and buy a new car, and then they start running up credit card balances, and those balances get charged very, very high interest rates, 15, 16%. So you want to kind of be smart about money. And so the way we do that is we get off to a really good start when we're 21 and 22. So the key to really acquire these assets in your early 20s is to really think about your housing. So if you could keep your housing costs down, aka live at home for a year or two, aka have a couple of roommates, don't live in this fancy apartment. And if you keep your housing and your transportation costs down in your 20s, you're probably going to build a lot of wealth through acquiring assets that appreciate, because you're not spending all your money on housing and transportation, which are two big portions of your budget. All right, so I have on here the golden sheet of investing, and we're going to get into this throughout the year. But what we want you to do is we want you to save and invest 15% of your gross income for the rest of your life. And we want you to try to hold to this. And what that will do with every decade that passes, as long as you're consistent with this, it will give you a lot of options in life. What happens to a lot of people is they don't build what is called an emergency plan. An emergency plan is 6 months of living expenses in a savings account somewhere. That way, if you lose your job, if something goes wrong, you have a financial emergency, you are able to tap into your emergency fund and not sell your 401k. So what a 401k is, it's a retirement account offered by your employer. We'll get into that later. But people put money into the 401k, and then when they lose their job, when the economy goes bad, we hit a recession, companies lay off. You get laid off, and then you need money to live off of until you find your next job. So people cash out their 401ks. The problem with that is, in a recession, the stock market drops. So they're literally selling stocks at a low point. And on top of it, you pay a 10% penalty of the money you withdraw. Plus, you have to pay tax on any gains that you have that you're pulling out. So it's really detrimental to do that. So that's why if you have an emergency fund set up and you are to lose your job or you have a major expense, you tap into that, and you're not forced to sell your investments when the stock market is at a low point. So as long as you save and invest 15%, you try to stick to that. And the way you're able to do that, like I said, in your 20s, if you keep your costs, your housing costs and your transportation costs down, and you don't get too wild with college debt, you should be able to hit that amount pretty easily, because you're not supporting a family yet. Invest in multiple appreciate asset buckets. So this one, we want to understand what the different types of assets we could invest in. I left one off here. We could also do bonds are on here. Bonds are a big piece. The bond market is the biggest market in the world. It's ginormous. Bonds are another one. Make one long-term investment a year. So by the time you're 30, you have 12. So let's say you just make one long. So what I mean by long-term investment is I'm going to hold the investment for more than 5 years. So a lot of young people, they don't understand the stock market and they think it's gambling. It's not gambling. You're investing in companies that provide tangible products people consume. And when you own that company, you are considered an owner, and you receive the benefits and the profits of that company. So that's reflected in the value of the stock. Some companies pay dividends, so they take a portion of their income and pay it back to you. I know I'm throwing a lot at you right now, but I want you to kind of think a little bit about how all this stuff works. Do what you love. So I think part of building wealth is if you do what you love, um, and you have a passion and purpose, you're probably going to be really good at what you do because you're passionate and you feel like you have a purpose. And so you'll probably get rewarded for that. So financially, you'll get rewarded for, personally by having satisfaction on your job, but you'll probably get rewarded financially because you'll be doing something you're really excited about doing. Share your wealth with others. Both right now, you guys are all wealthy on time. So as a young adult, you don't have obviously you got to be in school during the school year. But once you get to college, you're in class 3 hours a day. So you have so much time. You'll have so much time in college. So think about how your wealth is time wealth when you're young. So maybe you donate your time, and actually it's a great chance to see what's out there. So maybe donate to time to something you're interested in pursuing. Invest in yourself does not always have to be in a school setting. You could invest in yourself by taking a workshop, by reading books, by watching videos, by doing whatever. So don't always think that the only way you can invest in yourself is through a degree. There's a lot of different ways you could do that. Carry all your insurances. We'll get into that in this class. And try not to carry a credit card balance. Because of the interest rates are pretty high in those. Carry an emergency fund, and if you carry an emergency fund and you do this right, you'll probably never have to carry a credit card balance. If I were to ask all of you, would you like to make money without working? All of you would be pretty excited about that, and that's called passive income. So stocks are passive income. If I buy a McDonald's stock, I don't have to go work at McDonald's and make French fries to make money. Just by owning the stock, they're going to pay me a dividend. I'm going to earn income off of my money. So that's called passive income, earning money without working. So you should study a little bit on how passive income works. Most people, school trains you to really focus on earned income, go get the skills, go get the job, get paid for the work, but do not neglect the passive income route. Don't overweight on depreciating assets in your 20s. So I have this, here's a few books if you want to check out, but I have this link is in the unit document. It's called the Golden Sheet of Investing. But really what I'm going to kind of show you now is really showing you how important it is to start investing early. So if let's say at age 21, I start investing $500 a month and I do that for my entire working life, and I do that for 40 years. I know that seems like a long time. It is a long time. But $500 a month when you're 21 is actually quite a bit of money, depending on how much money you make. As your income goes up, $500 a month isn't as dramatic. Plus, a lot of companies are going to give you some of that $500 through through a 401k. So let's just say you put $500 a month and you do that for your entire working life, and you do that monthly. By the time you are 61 years old, you're going to have $1.7 million if you keep up on that. Okay. So that's, even though 40 years from now, 1.7 won't be worth 1. It's still going to be worth a lot of money at that point. So why don't people do this? Well, they don't know about it. When they don't take classes on it. Maybe you didn't even, some of your classmates probably didn't get this far in the video. Maybe they turned the video off and they thought, whatever, this is boring stuff. So you're getting this information when you're 60 years old. If you complain that you have no money, it's your own fault, because you're getting this information and you want to make sure that you come up with a plan. Now, let's say you wait until you're 41. Let's say you wait until you're 41 to do this, and you're like, oh man, I got to start saving. I'm 41. All right, so we're going to cut our time frame in half. Now I'm only investing for 240 months versus 480 months to get to the same dollar amount that the person started at age 21. And this is where it all comes together. The amount of money that they're going to have to put in monthly to catch up to get to the same point when they're 61, you're going to be really surprised when you look at this. They're going to have to put in almost $3,000 a month. And when you're 41, a lot of people have families, they have kids. Kids are expensive. They're not going to have the $3,000 a month to do that. Now, If they started at 21 and they put the 500 in, they 500 when you got two working parents or one working parent or whatever, 500 might not be that big of a swing, where $3,000 is a big swing. So early and often you want to save and invest in assets that appreciate early and often. So the way you want to look at, as you learn and go through this unit, you're going to learn about how the paycheck works and taxes and stuff like that. You always want to set aside money first. As soon as you get paid, you could do it automatically where you don't even have to look at it. And so a 401k is a nice way to do that, because the employer will pull the money out of your paycheck for you and you don't even have to make the transaction. Automatic investing is my favorite way for young people to invest, because then whatever money they get left over, hey, here's the beauty of it. You get to spend all of it and you get to decide on where you spend that money, and you don't have to feel guilty because you paid yourself first. All right. So that's a little bit about this. Just to let you know, why did I pick 8%? The stock market on average over a 30-year windows usually is a return around 8-9%. So that's a historic average. It's not a guarantee. Even if the next 30 years it's at 6%, you're still better off by investing because of what is called compounding interest. And so we'll go over all that in the class. But hopefully this helps. And good luck to you. And write a summary on what you learned and what stands out to you, and what you think. All right. Thank you.